Rock Runestone is a district administration of Sweden made by Björn Ironside to administer the Swedish realm. And some parts were given to Rodulf, that is essentially Ubbe, and Rukulf, that is essentially Hvitserk, and Björn Ironside, and Hjort. He's named after a grandpa that was Ragnar's friend or close friend. Ragnar had a lot of sons, so they missing a son of Ragnar is not strange, because he had a lot of concubines from the concubines he took from Paris and after burning it down. So Ragnar Lodbrok had a lot of sons, and the Rock Runestone mentions it. One of the clues is that the Brage the Skald is mentioned on the runestone, one of Ragnar's closest friends, and he knew Ragnar Lodbrok personally, and he made a Rock Runestone for Björn Ironside to part the Swedish realm into administrative regions, so the Swedish region could easier bring up taxes and organize the Swedish levy for defense against foreign enemies like the Danes or Estonians or any other potential threat for the Swedish realm. And Särk means the same thing in Norse, so when they say Rukulf, it's essentially a nickname for Hvitserk. Is Särk in modern day Swedish, it's still a cloth piece, so Hvitserk is essentially a Rukulf, and he died in the east, where the Swedes were most active. He had the control of the empire after Ragnar Lodbrok's sons conquered a large swath of what is now Eastern Europe and England. Hvitserk had the administrative control over Russia, but he got killed and when the Slavs revolted, and they burnt him over a fire pit of skulls of his defeated enemies, according to legend. I don't know if there is some truth to it, but that's what it says. And Hvitserk is Ragnar, according to the earliest sources, had two sons named Ulf. So Rodulf and Rukulf being Ragnar's sons would not be strange, and he naming his son after a grandpa that he was a close friend with and had a good relationship with is not impossible. So I think the Rock Runestone mentions 4 sons of Ragnar: Björn Ironside, Hvitserk, and Ubbe. And Hjort, that's a forgotten son of Ragnar Lodbrok. They're all sons and relatives of Ragnar Lodbrok, the famous Viking that burnt down Paris and made the Frankish Empire cover in fear, and got a large Danegeld from the Frankish Empire, together with his Danish, Norwegian and Swedish warriors. The fear of the time, or the scourge from the north, that tear down and burnt down the walls of Paris. He sacrificed 100 Parisians to Odin to make the French cower in fear. Rodulf the Viking was one of Ragnar's sons. It was Ubbe. He got to Friesland and got land there. And he probably lied about his origins, because he could not tell that he was the son of Ragnar Lodbrok, the man that burnt down the capital of the Franks and took out a huge Danegeld. So he lied about his heritage and claimed he was a son of Harald Clark to avoid being killed by the Franks, or that the Frankish soldiers or diplomats would not trust him if he told the truth that he was a son of Ragnar Lodbrok that burnt down Paris. So he lied about his name, and he would later lead a great heathen army, and then he would go back to Friesland and get himself killed. Later on, English Chronicle, 300 years after Rodulf died in the Frankish Empire, invent a version where the English kills Ubbe. But the reason why they wanted him to be killed by the English is that he killed Edmund the Saint. So the English killing Saint killer would be better for a good story that English author made up 300 years later to make a good story for the English kings. But he was killed in Friesland by Franks after he tried to take out a Danegeld. But he was betrayed because the Franks did not trust him. And they did not believe his story. And I think that's the reason is that they didn't believe him, is that they found out his true paternal heritage. It doesn't stand, but that's some conclusions I came to myself. He was a son of Ragnar, so the Franks did not trust him. And he was killed by the Franks. And he died like a dog, even though he converted to Christianity. It was probably not true. He did not convert to Christianity, and he did it only to please the Franks. And it was Rolf, a son of Ragnar Lodbrok. It's what I came to conclusion. And he's mentioned on the rock runestone as a son of Ragnar, or a son of a brother of Björn Ironside. Rurik and Rodulf. Rorik of Dorestad was also a son of Björn Ironside. So Rurik and Rodulf is also mentioned by Frankish chronicles as being related, and Rurik was the son of Björn Ironside, and he controlled Friesland or Netherlands, but later got invited when Witzerk died as ruler of Novgorod. Here you see the path of Rodulf and Rurik or Erik Björnsson, because the Norse did no distinction between Erik and Rurik, as they made no distinction between Emund or Anund in Old Swedish. The Norse could make several variations of the same name or make nicknames. Ubbe, his relative that died in Friesland, and Rurik that died in Novgorod after being invited there. He didn't die in Novgorod, he also died in the Netherlands, but he took control after his nephew Witzerk died, and he had a son, Oleg, that would later on expand the Swedish control over Eastern Europe and make it essentially into the large Kievan Rus state. Rurik of Dorestad, a son of Björn Ironside. That's the most likely explanation, or his most likely parenthood, because I read a source from the 18th century that mentions this, and he probably have older Swedish sources that got lost during the fires 1697. So a son of Björn Ironside is the first king of Kievan Rus, or his legacy, Björn's legacy, carried on his name. Rurik here controlled a West Empire forged by Swedish warriors, and majority Swedish warriors, like the Western Northumbrian Empire was forged by Danish warriors. The Kievan Rus Empire was forged by Swedish or Rus warriors. And here's the map of what essentially was the same empire at the time. And the Frankish sources also mentions that the Danish kings had their base in Sweden. A lot of the Danish kings got their base of support from Swedes, because Swedes and Danes were essentially allies at the time, trying to destroy the Frankish Empire that attacked heathen civilians and killed them, and wanted revenge for the attacks in Saxony. and establish new trade routes, and just because it was beneficial for the Norsemen at the time to attack the Frankish Empire, because it was fragmented and had no willpower to attack the Scandinavian countries back, because they were in a dynastic power struggle between the sons of Charlemagne.